Alrighty guys, so we had a round of servant buffs over here on the JP side of things, and usually I would cover them as they're coming out, but I just figured I would wait for the entire batch, because as I'm sure a lot of you guys were probably expecting me to get hyped about, we do have a gold berserker when Morgan was going up on raid up, but when people asked me about that on stream, I was like, no, there's just no way. Like, I don't think Morgan really needs a buff. There are a lot of other 5-star berserkers that can use it. Like, we could give Kentucky Berserker a real third skill, Xiang Yu could use it, Nightingale could really use it. Morgan did not need it. So as much as it would be really cool for me, did not really feel like it was something that was necessary. But I'm going to go ahead and cover these all in one shot, just kind of go through these quick, fast, and in a hurry. I haven't really looked at any of these aside from the Kirei one, because people on my stream are like, it's the nuttiest thing of all time, and I think it's good, but we'll cover that as we go. So with all that being said, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. But let's just start moving into this. So Arjuna is getting a skill buff. That would be... okay, it's the Buster one, so it's going over here. It's giving him a 30% Arts and Buster for 3 turns, as well as 20% NP damage for 3 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. So that's... okay, this is not bad for him. I don't want to rag on Arjuna too much, because especially from this, it's a whole lot better. Because if you didn't know, having the 3-turn buff on your cards does mean you can loop it back with Koyanskaya, and being able to loop back not only the Buster buff, but also the NP damage buff does actually mean that he's going to be really good for Buster looping if they ever decide to fix his battery and make him more viable for that. And being able to loop the NP damage buff means he'll have a 40% damage buff going into Oberon, already giving you the 20% on his first skill, meaning he functionally will have a non-max limit broken Black Grail on his skill. Unfortunately, Arjuna does not really have the battery to do Buster farming. He is just slightly off, right? Just having the 25%. They fixed Karna's, haven't fixed his yet. He's not quite there, but this is a nice step in the right direction. The arts buff, I don't want to demean this too much. Him having a triple arts deck does mean that if you find yourself in a challenge quest scenario, which based on his first skill over here, is not bad in theoretically, being able to functionally be debuff immune for almost the entirety of the fight. There's only 1 turn in between this being 5 and this being on a 6-turn cooldown that he will not have it up. So you could find an interesting scenario to use him, but realistically, this seems like a layup buff. Like, they're giving him this buff on his 3rd skill so that when they do decide to go back and fix his 2nd skill, he'll be pretty decent as an archer servant for your, Buster looping needs. So again, not quite there, doesn't really change too much for Arjuna, but it's what I would like to call a step in the right direction. This is something that needs to be done if they are going to give him just any type of additional battery. And, realistically, they just have to bump this up to the 30%, and he'll be perfectly fine. He'll be doing that really, really well. EMIYA Assassin, I know, is his 2nd skill. Or no, it's actually his 1st skill. Okay. But I do know that he is gaining attack whenever he removes a buff off of the enemy. And I do want to explain this a little bit as to why I think it's good, but I don't think it's going to be like meta breaking. Obviously, getting the 40% arts buff for 3 turns, that is helping him out a lot. It's not only helping his NP refund, but it's just having him do good, consistent damage. You typically, when you're fighting these bosses, if you have a 1-turn buff and you don't have a way to refresh it with like a Koyanskaya or a maybe original Tamamo, your damage falls off a lot. Your first turn, you'll look really impressive because you have that big damage buff, but then when you lose it, you're not really doing a whole lot of damage, right? And then your guy's kind of just sitting around like a fish in a bucket, not really doing a whole lot of anything. But now that we've given him this for 3 turns, it means his damage is going to be a lot better. His NP refund should also feel a little bit better because he'll have this big arts buff for 3 turns. And this is good. 15% attack for 3 turns whenever you remove an enemy's buff is not bad. It's just you have to find fights where it's actually going to be applicable, because a lot of bosses nowadays, while they might have a lot of effects, do often pack a lot of unremovable buffs. So it is one of those things that I don't think you're going to be like, oh, I'm bringing EMIYA Assassin to every single fight, because he's not going to be well positioned in all of them. But if you are fighting a boss that is susceptible to buff removal, he's going to be really good in those, especially if they are, say, a Rider or a Berserker boss, because he's also super effective on them being an assassin. So really good step in the right direction for EMIYA Assassin. In fact, I think this really helps him carve out a niche if you do have him, and that's really all I could ask for, right? You're not going to be competing with, Kama after her buff. You're not going to be competing. I mean, he's not a quick servant, right? But Melt can fill the role of a single target assassin, being able to take down riders and berserkers as an alter ego, and he's not going to be as good as them, right? He's not going to be as good as like post-buff King Hassan, who is just very, very strong. But it does give him a niche that if you are fighting a boss that can have their buffs removed, while Melt can do that, he is at least profiting off of it by gaining the attack. And again, nice utility for removing those buffs off the enemy. So I think it's very, very strong. I don't think it's like the most broken thing of all time, but I do think it's good because whenever you do find a use case for it, you're going to pop absolutely off. Now, next is Stheno. I'm pretty sure was this a skill buff? What was Stheno's? Stheno had, it's her charm. Okay. Now, Stheno, I don't really know what they could actually give her that would make this good. Okay, it's 100% charm, so that's bumped up from like, okay, it was actually still 100%. It's now not tied to anybody. That's actually really nice. That's really neat. Being able to have technically party-wide survivability because you can stun the enemy for a turn with the charm. And then being an Omni support with this, I think is a nice position to put her in. But Stheno, from the ground up, is just not ever going to be a strong servant, right? Just because of how her NP is centered. Even at the jump of the game, they tell you the main thing you want to be doing is firing your NPs. I mean, even characters that do face card damage, like say somebody like Super Orion or Chi Shi Huang that can do really good crits, like even some of these very basic face card servants want to fire their NP to facilitate their gameplay. And Stheno just has a lot going wrong. I mean, it's a support buster NP that has a chance to insta-kill male enemies. I don't have to be, a rocket scientist to tell you why that is bad. And you don't need to have your own PhD in FGO economics to know why this is not going to be great. Insta-kill already in and of itself is not very good. You need specific servants that are tailored into taking advantage of that niche, particularly the two Nidokrises, Caster and Avenger Nidokris. We don't talk about the summer one. Maybe they'll give her a buff someday, and then she'll also be really good. It's just not super great. Like, it's not something you're going to be proccing all that often, right? Like, sure, you could proc this against like bronze enemies, but that's not who you're going to be bringing her to ideally, because she is going to be now more of a support type character. Reducing their defense is fine. Removing their buffs is also going to be good, but again, same issue that you have with, EMIYA, but at least EMIYA is making himself stronger if he can find himself in that scenario. If you're having to bring Stheno, things have gone wrong, right? Like, if Stheno is going to be your buff remover, things have definitely gone wrong, or you just started your account, which is what I think about this buff. When I look at it, I say, this is going to help out people that are just starting the game. They do their tutorial gacha, don't feel like re-rolling, and they get Stheno. Well, now Stheno can actually function as a really solid early game support, being able to give every single card type of buff, having technical survivability, and then being able to buff damage even more by removing the enemy's buffs and reducing their defense, which can be nice. But I don't think this really changes anything for Stheno, just because from the ground up, she's not exactly built super well. I'm pretty sure Xiang Yu, okay, yeah, you did get an NP upgrade. I don't really know what they would put on Xiang Yu to fix him up. Like, he's one of those characters that I think is already kind of fine as is. Glad to see him get a buff. I'm hoping it does make him really nutty broken. Let me just scroll down. So, okay, I gotta refresh. Okay, so Xiang Yu, he had nothing. Okay, never mind. I was like, refresh me on what he does before he got the buff, and literally nothing. Next to nothing over here. So now, he has Pierce defense, he stacks 50% crit damage for 3 turns, and reduces the enemy's defense by 20% for 3 turns. This is very solid for him. This is not bad. He already has the big 100% crit damage buff over here on his first skill. At a certain point, you do stack enough crit damage to where it doesn't really matter, but I think he's getting close to the maximum critical threshold with the 100 on the first skill, the 50 over here, and then he doesn't have anything over here. It's just to facilitate his crit stars and all that good stuff. But now he can have like 200% crit damage after firing his first NP, and then even after you lose that 100% crit damage buff, he's still going to be at 150% after the second NP because this is stacking. He's also going to be doing more damage, not only because his damage scaling has been raised, but also because every subsequent NP is going to be doing more damage by lowering all enemies' defense by 20% for 3 turns. Pierce defense, just a nice novelty thing to like pop on there. When it comes up, it comes up. It is a little bit better because he does already have Pierce Invul, which functionally means that outside of Solemn Defense, Xiang Yu can now get get around any different type of buff the boss wants to put on themselves. Doesn't matter if it's removable, unremovable, doesn't matter. He's going to be doing big damage. They just kind of have to take these big fat crits that he's going to be hitting them with. I like this buff. This is a very solid buff for Xiang Yu. I don't know if it's going to see him have a resurgence of use in FGO. I don't know if people are going to be like, oh yeah, now I'm going to be cooking with Xiang Yu. I'm going to be summoning for this guy. But I do think if you already have him, it's really nice. It gives him some extra utility, can get around any boss defensive effects. He's going to be critting even harder, as well as doing more damage every time he fires his NP. If you're wondering about farming, because he is a AoE quick servant, this doesn't really do a whole lot for him in terms of farming, which is fine. Not every servant has to be the craziest farmer of all time, but it is something we do have to mention because farming is like 95% of the game. But again, if you're relying on face cards and Xiang Yu is your best quick AoE looper, he is a berserker, so you can bring him anywhere, and stacking crit damage, so if his NP doesn't do enough damage, you can do some big damage with those follow-up crits. That's not the worst. So I do like this one. This is really nice. I don't think it's really changing anything for Xiang Yu, but it is putting him in a better position. It's like if you have Xiang Yu, he's now a bit better. He's doing the same thing he was doing, just better because he can't be stopped as easily by the enemies. Now we have Alexander. I'm assuming it's a skill buff. Okay, so Alexander can actually be quite huge because he is effectively the low rarity option for quick buffing, right? Because he not only gives you the attack buff, but is also giving you the quick buff for your entire party. So I really don't know where they're going to go with this one. So they fixed his charisma from 16% to 20%. Everybody gets 30% crit damage, which is kind of fitting for Road to Iskander because he also does that. And he has a 20% battery. Doesn't really do a lot for Iskander, or for, I guess, Alexander, technically. I think it's very similar to the Stheno line. He kind of becomes an interesting option compared to Medusa if you're starting off the game and you just need somebody to be a wave clearer. He has a little bit more party, synergy than Medusa does. Medusa can do more damage on stunned enemies, or I guess, what is it, like bounded enemies? No, bounded is Amakusa's. Hers is petrified. Petrify is her special stun. So if they're like petrified, she can do extra damage to them. He has a little bit of extra team utility because, again, don't forget, he's also giving everybody like a decent 20% crit damage, not crit, but quick card performance over here. Sorry, trying to go through all of these in a very concise manner, and I'm also trying to give my initial thoughts on them as I'm looking at them, but I'm trying not to waste any time. The crit damage buff I do think is nice, but again, if you already have a quick AoE unit, probably not making a big difference for you, but it is nice. I do see this as a raising of the flooring a little bit for newer players or people that don't have as good of boxes, which I always love to see. I like to see that new players have a bit of an easier time. We don't have to drop like this redonkulous buff for these characters that are already good. Obviously, I would have liked to see this go to Uchi because I use her quite a bit over on the JP side of things, but it is nice. You start the game, you need an AoE rider, you have different options now with Medusa being your power mod guy, and you have Alexander being able to do some extra team support, and if you need a single target, you got Uchi. Just a nice buff, but again, not really changing anything for him in my opinion, but it is very nice if you are a newer player and don't have a better option. Martha, okay, so that's her natural body skill, or is it Protection of the Faith? I'm trying to remember what it's called. Protection of the Faith. Look at that. I'm just a genius. I know this. I know these things. I got the lore on the back of my hand. So, not really that insane of a buff. I mean, if this was targetable, it'd be a little bit better, but still not targetable. 30% battery. Party damage against dragon enemies. That actually might make a difference. Not for existing team comps where it's like, oh my goodness, you gotta bring Martha now. It's the new optimal thing to do in your buster farming setups. But in the way that if you're doing 90++ farming, this character could come up. Especially because a lot of people do have Martha at higher NP levels. I'm not saying she's going to be doing like 500,000 damage, but the fact is, if there's like an enemy that's not too large and is a dragon, say around like 200k HP, and you're around like NP3, she should be able to handle business in that. And then your other allies are getting a free power mod in that fight, as well as she is also lowering an enemy's defense. So you could save this for another node, and so not only is she giving them the power mod, but if you can get away with not having to use this on whatever node you're using Martha for, she can contribute 30% extra defense down. This is not bad. I don't hate this one. This is actually not that bad. I do wish these were targetable, because it would play into her niche over here of being able to, heal everybody, and especially just on demand remove everybody's debuffs. This would be nice because you could prevent your guys from getting debuffed, and you could also give them an extra heal. Kind of wish for that, but again, 30% battery, Dragon Power mod does give her some viability going into some multi-core setups. I am going to be kind of excited to cook with this Martha in some, 90++ nodes, especially because my account is a little bit more limited, as people know, on the JP side of things, where I don't have Koi and Sky and I don't have Oberon. This could be really, really solid for that. Outside of that, is this going to change her in, like, boss fights or anything? I don't really think so. She'll do a little bit more damage. You could actually use Martha as a real DPS now, so that's something that's nice. But I'm really excited to use her in some multi-core setups and see what we're able to cook with that one. Now, I don't know what Lancer Artoria does, but I'm really excited to see what she's going to get. Lancer Artoria, as people know, ZTL's got he's got the Hall of Waifus. We got, Morgan and Jalter, very close neck and neck, 1 and 2, sometimes is a little bit interchangeable. And then number 3 frequently features Bunny Toria / Lancer Artoria. I like her a lot, dude. I am a huge fan of not only her character, even though Goddess Rangominiad is a little bit different than our normal Lancer Artoria, but even in her interlude, you get to find out stuff about that. I won't spoil it because all interludes will be available when we have the whole Grand Servant campaign. I just like this character a lot. Like, I really, really adore this character. So the fact is, she has a chance to become usable. I'm seeing it's the charisma, and I see the power mods. If you just make those 3 turns, it helps her out a lot. It doesn't make her crazy, but it helps her out a lot, because for suspense, these are on the first skill, so it can't be this one. Increases party attack by 20%, party NP damage by 20%, increases NP damage of round table knight allies for 3 turns. That includes her, right? Ooh. Oh. So this does a lot. This does a lot for her. Before I confirm how broken this actually is, let me go confirm it works the way that I want to real quick. Okay, yep, I double checked it in game. This does include her, because I was like, there's no shot she just gets 50% NP damage, right? For 3 turns? That is loopable with Koyenskaya, meaning you're going to have 100% NP damage on this character, not discounting the 40% attack buff she'll have when she loops that, and you can loop this back around as well. So yeah, I was like, oh dude, wait, no, it's not going to be this one. They're not going to change this to 3 turns, so you can't stack the power mods. Screw the power mods. Garbage. We don't care about that at all. This is insane. It's also helping out. You're not at the round table, because like I said for Martha, this isn't just 50% NP damage for her. Oh yeah, there are some smackers in here, dude. I mean, Ruler Artoria just got her buff as well. Oof. Yeah, like, I was like, surely Zertoria doesn't count on that, right? Because of Lost Belt 6. You could do some pretty disgusting things with Lancer Artoria now. Not discounting the fact that you're just going to be looping the second skill. Like, that in and of itself is going to be very, very strong. But say you're bringing 2 DPSs, right? And then, let's also not discount the fact that she's also giving herself 20% gauge on this as well. So the amount of shenanigans you can get up to, and how little investment it requires to actually use Lancer Artoria over here. Like, I'm pretty sure you can get the looping done with like a K-scope Lancer Artoria and like Koyenskaya or something, because of just being able to like loop this back around. So it's very minimum investment to get her to work very well. You could buff your allies for 100% NP damage. That's potentially really disgusting, but that's like high rolling it, right? Even just giving everybody the 20% attack buff and 50% NP damage on servants that are a little good. Like, I don't know if you knew, but Salter getting a crazy buff. Mordred getting a crazy buff. Artoria, already really, really good. Bedivere, really strong in like multi-core setups as your single target. Arthur got a buff. That's really, really insane. Bargist would always love extra damage. I don't know if she's ideal to be using in these setups, but it is somebody that would say 50% NP damage. I'll take that. I'll see what I can do with that one. I mean, Ruler Artoria got a buff recently. That's really crazy. This servant, Caster Artoria, Berserker Caster Artoria, I guess, already really, really nutty. Melusine counting as one as well is also a little disgusting, because Melusine is already pretty self-sufficient with her 100% battery. You dump the Oberon buffs onto her. She's already at 100% plus her first skill, and then Lancer Artoria from 0% can pop her third skill for the battery, and then like a plug suited in like Kolya and Sky can give her the other 50%. Now you're not going to loop the 100% on that one, but you're still giving Melusine like 50% NP damage on top of the damage she's already able to do, and this still lets you use Oberon. Like, this frees up anybody you want to use in this. Like, this is a little nutty. Like, this is a little insane. Maybe I was too nice on some of these other people, because if I knew we were going to be getting this, I would have called all these guys bums. Because, like, I'm being nice, where it's like, Arjuna is getting a buff that will make him really solid once they fix his battery. Once he gets that, he'll be a pretty solid servant. Kiritsugu has a very strong buff that, if you're able to take advantage of it, he is capable of outputting some really naughty damage. Stheno is going to be really good alongside Alexander for newer players that if you don't have anybody better, you don't have a proper support, or you don't have a proper wave clearer, they can help you out. Xiang Yu got better at doing his job. Martha actually has some interesting multi-core capabilities. There's no way they dropped this on April 1st, right? Like, this is supposed to be a bit? This is a joke? Like, bro, what? What do you mean, bro? What do you mean by this one? Well, I don't know what to say. I'm a bit flabbergasted. Very happy because a character that I really like is getting this buff. And yeah, I guess I'll pass it down to people in the comments for like how ridiculous this is. I mean, maybe I should have been covering these every single day, but I was like, no, I'll just cover them all in one block. You know, we could talk about all the Lilim Harlot characters over on NA, and then we'll get around to this at a perfect timing whenever we actually wrap up all of that. We could talk about all the buffs, because it'll finish at a very opportune time. But this is disgusting. This is filthy. This is so gross, dude. This is so nasty. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Obviously, if you enjoyed, like the video, subscribe. It's always helpful. It's also free. If you want to influence videos that come out on the channel, patrons down in the description down below, where you guys get to vote on like the Friday videos. Generally, if there's a lot going on, that might have to get bumped around to a different day, but I do let the patrons vote on the patron videos that do be coming out. You also get access to patron exclusive content, but yeah, I'm still a little flabbergasted. I'm taking a little bit aback by this one. This might single-handedly be one of like the strongest offensive skills in the game. This is ridiculous. Because normally, you could only give something like this to somebody that's like a bit more tailored, a little bit more restricted. Like, Van Gogh's NP is really crazy, but you gotta get to the NP, and it really only, you know, goes sick nasty when you have other foreigners around. And so it takes a little bit more investment. This is just, you click, the enemy dies. So, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. that's about all I can see from that one. So, yeah, do all the things, and I will catch you guys in the next video, I guess, if I ever wake up from my Lancer Artoria induced coma.